I have been on the hunt for ways that I can mitigate my depression. We are very complex creatures, from our brains to our body systems, our hormones, our experiences, and all these things, they can all interconnect. And as such, there's really no one solution for depression. It's really a multitude of solutions over a period of time, which is what I found in my experience. Today, first, we're going to go over some of the origins likely for our depression as neurodivergent moms. Then we'll talk briefly about some mental barriers that you may have in place. And finally, I have 5 solutions for easing your depression. No, this does not include exercise. While I believe that exercise is a huge benefit, I feel like it's something that everybody talks about. Now, I'm not a doctor, so please, if you are experiencing high bouts of depression, please talk to your doctor or your therapist to find solutions that are going to be unique for your specific situation. What I'm basing these off of is my own research and my own experience. So without further ado, let's get started. Being a neurodivergent mom consists of a lot more challenges, as I'm sure you already know. The constant interruptions of your kids, the really high demands, being an emotional caretaker for your family, running on low sleep, and essentially putting everybody else's needs before your own, and maybe not even taking care of yourself really at all, or as much as you should be. One of the first origins that I feel could create a lot of depression is RSD. Rejection sensitivity is maybe something you've already heard of, but if not, basically means that you and I, because we're neurodivergent, because we have ADHD or autism or ADHD, have experienced and felt and heard a lot of rejection from people that are really close to us, a lot of negative talk towards us. Maybe we moved around too much, maybe we weren't focusing enough. And because of all these things, we have this almost like a blanket of a negative view of ourselves. If you have been late diagnosed as having any kind of neurodivergence, then there's even more years of trauma to unpack, to go through, and to really try to let go of. It's almost like a grieving process. Second origin of depression likely is masking. As many of you may have experienced at a very young age, you were a lot different. And so you would cover up who you are, try to act like everybody else so that you can fit in, so that you can have friends, so that you can at least try to feel like you're normal, at least around other people. So masking for a really long period of time almost makes you lose a sense of who you really are because you've covered it up for so long. And so trying to start taking the mask off around other people is a lot of work. Just the fact that you are masking is a lot of work. And that leads to a lot of anxiety, to making sure that you're acting the right way or doing the right thing, and also to depression. The third one is anxiety. I feel like probably every neurodivergent person has a good bit of anxiety. I know that I do. And a lot of times I kind of just stuffed it down, or I didn't really think about it. And I have felt anxiety, and you probably have too, experiencing it not only mentally, but also in your physical body. It manifests as, for me, skin issues, GI tract issues, hormones are worse, headaches, of course, depression, and also dysregulation, which is something that I really found working on regulation really did help a lot, but only to an extent. After anxiety, we have burnout. Burnout can be months of burnout, which is the actual literal definition of burnout, is it lasts for months, especially autistic burnout. Sleeping and trying to rest and everything doesn't really help it. You have to actually do a whole lot more in order to get out of burnout. And then you also have to work on staying out of burnout. Along with burnout, I feel, is meltdown, which stem a lot from anxiety, stem a lot from masking, and then having to be using so much energy that then you just can't even function anymore. You've actually pushed yourself past the point of being able to mask anymore. And so you have a meltdown. As monotropic people, hormones, which is the next one I'm going to talk about, has a big impact on how we feel, is a lot more sensitive to these fluctuations. And so when we have our monthly cycles of hormones, also giving birth, also going through perimenopause, these fluctuations are like blown past the moon for a lot of us who are more sensitive to such things in our bodies. I will likely do another video in the future more about hormones, because I feel like it really would unlock a lot of information and hopefully change for us, and just knowing what to expect. The last origin of depression that I have, at least for what my brain came up with, was sleep. Us moms obviously don't really get very good sleep. But on top of the fact that we have all this interrupted sleep and all this anxiety, all this depression, and all these feelings of inadequacy, they boil over into our sleep. And of course, we can't sleep well when we're anxious and depressed. So this thing that we really, 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 really need is this high quality sleep. We can't necessarily obtain it when we feel so depressed or so anxious and so terrible. I just want to talk briefly about a few mental barriers that I feel like can get in the way of trying to ease depression. The things that can get in the way of our healing and having a better life is parenting, is the fact that we're so busy and that we let ourselves get taken away with it and we don't take care of ourselves. And probably if you're here, you probably have been in burnout because of this. Now we're forced to do something about it. I know a lot of people talk about meditation. It's not something that I ever wanted to try. From what I know about meditation, it's almost like you're trying to get to your higher self, but there is no higher self. We are ourselves. Now we can reroute how our brains work. It's called neuroplasticity, and it's something I want to do some more research about. We can't really just change ourselves. We have to do something. We can meditate on God's word. We can work on rewiring how we think. We are not gods ourselves. We can't tap into some stream of consciousness in ourselves that's going to take all the pain away and answer all our questions. So if you are willing to get past these mental barriers and you know that you can rewire your thoughts, then we can move on to the next section, which is 5 things that can help ease your depression as a neurodivergent mom. The first one is just knowing that we're neurodivergent, especially if you've been late diagnosed. You've spent a lot of time not really knowing who you really are, why you're so different, how people look at you differently, and you act differently than everybody else. Just knowing will help us to be on the path of learning more about how our brains work and how we function so that we can help ourselves. Then from there, we just have to actually act on things. We have to put in place what we're learning and putting ourselves first so that we can get on a path to a better life. Once we learn, we can then advocate for ourselves, which I found to be very difficult, to set boundaries and tell people how I feel and who I am. I do find it rather unfortunate that we're already, living in this polytropic world and our brains just work different. And then on top of that, we also have to now explain it to other people and try to help ourselves because the entire world has been tailored towards a different kind of a brain. The second way that I have helped ease my depression is by talking to other people about it. I and you have to be very specific about who we trust. I've spoken a lot to my husband about it, kind of easing him into expressing when I feel badly. Sometimes I've even called him during a meltdown. It helps to explain to those that we love how we feel differently and how we work differently, and maybe educating them almost, which can be difficult because sometimes it's hard to explain how I feel. Also, setting boundaries is another really helpful way to preserve your energy and to place more respect on yourself by advocating for yourself in that way and telling people, no, I don't have the energy for this. I'm not built for this. I said in the past, maybe normal people can do this, but I'm not normal. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it's great that I'm not normal. Talking to others and kind of releasing some of that negative energy, releasing some of things that we hold inside, and also getting ideas has been really beneficial. The third thing, which I'm really excited about because this is something I'm exploring right now, is special interests. And by that, I mean these things that you can fixate on, that you just absolutely love, where when you're doing this thing, it makes everything else kind of melt away. And your brain is finally able to kind of follow a train of thought. You're able to work on something for a long period of time. Maybe you can work on it each and every single day because you love it that much. As mothers, we typically don't have any of these things in our lives, or maybe we have very few of them, or maybe we work on these things once a week. I was in this exact boat. I didn't even know what I like to do. I still am a little bit hazy about what things I would fixate on. It's something that I'm exploring right now and trying to think through and trying to find things that I really like to do, because the mental health benefits of being able to let everything else melt away is huge. It's letting us kind of relax. It's taking all those very fast moving thoughts and kind of just setting them aside for a little while putting them into something that we really enjoy. Also, because this is something that I'm working on right now, I did want to leave a list of some special interests in the description. You can download it in case you don't know what you possibly want to do and you want to get some ideas as well. The fourth thing is something else that I am currently working on, which is kicking bad habits. I believe that we develop these bad habits because we're trying to soothe our brain. Our brain is working so fast, and we just don't necessarily know what to do to make it not move so fast. I've heard of men having these nothing boxes they can go in and they'll just watch YouTube on their phone and they're like, oh, I'm happy here. But I don't have that. And I think a lot of women don't have that ability. We might reach for things that are bad for us, like alcohol, like drugs, thinking these things are actually going to soothe our brain so that we don't have to think so much. And it actually really ends up backfiring. Replacing those negative things with positive things is my plan, which was to replace negative things with special interests and exploring some new special interests. The fifth thing and the final thing is a type of journaling. I heard another ADHDer talking about how she would spend 5 or 10 minutes every day just on her computer, typing out whatever stream of consciousness she's thinking about. It helped her to figure out a lot of problems, find solutions for them, and really be able to finish certain thoughts and get them out of her head. In the past, I have done brain dumps of negative things, but never really on days where I felt normal or okay or not too bad. So this is something that I want to start doing every day to see if it really helps me kind of come farther along this path about knowing who I am and what I need to do to support myself. I'd love to hear if you have any tactics or anything that's really worked for you. And if you like this video, please hit the like button. Please subscribe for more content for neurodivergent moms. And I hope to see you next time. I hope you have a great day. Who doesn't want to be normal? Who doesn't want to fit in? Why does there have to be a giant ant on my camera? Ants are gross. Either talk like those kind of ants. Why are there so many bitey ants? Hopefully that all makes sense.